So just, oh, okay, so there's the recording started, so let's get going. So you're not going to hear too much from me today because we've got very interesting speakers who are going to talk to you about the actual practicalities of teaching digital literacy. So just to say that, you know, about the aim of this session, as in the previous sessions, because you may or may not know this is the third in the series, our aim is to support the Welsh Government's digital literacy agenda, and we're doing this through providing a platform for you to share your experiences, whether those are good or bad, because sometimes people want some, you know, they might want to say, well, this has gone wrong, what can I do? Has anybody got any suggestions? I will also send out a link afterwards to a GISC mail list that we have, where people can ask questions of other people in the community, but more of that later. So you'll be hearing from people who've already started on the road to teaching and assessing this new qualification that we're looking at, that we're supporting, the ESW. And there'll be, you know, lots of tools and information so that you can, you know, get an idea of what people are actually doing in the field and who they are, so that you can ask them some questions too. So one of the tools that will be looked at and many find useful in teaching is podcasts. So we're just going to give you a little bit of a background, a little bit of information about how GISC uses podcasts, and then we'll pass you on to the actual practical session. So over to you, Sharon. This is Sharon Cook, who's one of the account managers for GISC. And she works with digital resources, so she knows an awful lot about this area. So over to you, Sharon.
Brilliant. Thank you, Catherine. Right, I'm just going to pop my video on, so you can, hopefully you should be able to see me. Put a bit of a face to the name. That should help. Well, first off, just want to say good afternoon, and thank you for giving me some of your time today to have a very quick and brief introduction to podcasting. I want to talk about how I use the GISC podcast and introduce the idea of creating your own. For those that don't know, podcasting is an episodic form of digital media, and it can be anything, including audio, video, even PDFs, and everything in between. I've seen lots of different examples of podcasts, from instructional series, subject-specific discussions, reflections on learning, but I want to focus here on the GISC podcast service, which includes a range of these. So I use the GISC podcast to keep up to date with all the different products and services that we have on offer, as well as to hear about best practice use from across the UK. Why use the GISC podcast service and not just read blogs on the website? Well, to be honest, I'm slightly lazy, but also mainly I'm based in Mid Wales and I have to travel everywhere, and that's usually driving everywhere. So the podcasts help me make effective use of that travelling time. They're also a great way to keep up to date and keep my knowledge up to date, because they're relatively short podcasts and around about 5 to 10 minutes long, and I can listen to them whenever and wherever I want to. So how do I listen to them? I subscribe to the GISC podcast with an app on my Android phone called Podcast Addicts, although you can use lots of different apps out there. There's apps on iTunes, there's a native app on there, or you can actually listen directly on the GISC website. Once I've subscribed, I download the latest one, although if I'm being completely honest, again, I have a look at the title and I'll decide from there. Or I'll search within the subscription for keywords, for example, digital capability or digital responsibility, and see what podcast that brings up. And that's it. New information right at my fingertips, or earlobes, because I'm usually listening. So yeah, if you're already using podcasts, how about creating your own? Do you have learners that travel in? What if they came prepared to your next lesson, or you wanted a quick, easy way to top up their knowledge on a topic? Or you could even give a review of coursework instead of writing up marks. GISC Digital Media have a lot of guides on how to find, create and manage digital media, including a little guide to making a podcast, hints and tips. So I'm going to move the slide on. There we are. Now, don't worry about these links. As Catherine said, she'll be able to send the links out to you afterwards, and she might pop them in the chat pane for us as well. So yeah, so that's the links there. That's a link there to the little guide to making a podcast, hints and tips. And there's also a guide on there to creating an audio podcast using a free service called Audacity. Now, just to note as well, the Just Digital Media service has actually been retired from 31st of July this year, but you can download most of the guides and information on the site as a PDF, or save the web pages to a note-taking service like OneNote, Evernote or Pockets. So, I'll leave it at that. If you'd like to create a podcast or you would like our help, please don't hesitate to get in touch. I'd really love to hear from you. My contact details will be at the end of this presentation. And again, thank you very much for your time. I'll now hand you over to Cheryl.
Hello, my name's Cheryl Kens and I work at Nathan Talbot College in the engineering department. I've completed the Digital Literacy Practitioners course and I'm actually doing a pilot with Level 2 learners. These learners are on an enhanced learning programme. They're all boys because they're engineers, don't get many girls, and they're all looking to find an apprenticeship at the end of this academic year. They get 5 weeks work experience, and this is where I start with them with digital responsibility when teaching digital literacy, because most of them will have created various accounts, as in Facebook, Twitter, using social media, and maybe not in the right way. So I'd like to ask those who are listening to use the chat and just give me a few little brief sentences what digital responsibility means to yourself. So if you could do that now, please. Okay, I've got being safe online, yes, definitely. Being responsible online, yes. Safe use of social media. Being aware of personal information. Yes, okay, clearly I can see that considerate of others, yes. Okay, so you have some really good comments there. Take care of what goes online, definitely. Not putting personal things up online, yes. Buying and selling online, yes, of course. Okay, so what digital responsibility means to me, it's a starting point when I start teaching digital literacy, because without being responsible, I don't feel we should be using the technology or the tools if we're not going to do them in a responsible and safe way. So it's a fundamental driver for digital literacy and for learners to be aware that they need to take on these responsibilities seriously. Most people are using digital literacy with work and learning, but also in their personal life. So they have to do it in a safe and secure environment. And they should be aware that everything they do online will leave a digital footprint. These footprints are there because we share information, we perhaps look at information, and all this then is creating an online reputation. And this could be positive or it could be negative. So again, it takes back to the safe and secure environment. So I can see from the posts that people have put up that you're very much aware of digital responsibility, which is great, because I do feel that's where we should start. So you could ask, what is a digital footprint? So a digital footprint is it's a trail of data that you leave behind online. This particular caption is from Barclay's Life, and it'll be one of the links put up. Perhaps you could do some comments now on what type of digital footprint you think you have. So perhaps you get some chat going on. Do you think you've got a good digital footprint or a poor? Or perhaps your learners, what type of learners footprints have they got, negative or positive? So your Facebook entries, yes, that's going to be a good digital footprint. Tweets, yes, definitely. Family messages, Twitter, blogs, yes, all these things that we're putting up, we're using various social media. They are going to leave a digital footprint, and our learners must understand that these can be negative or positive, and obviously we want them to leave positive footprints. some students, with their actions result in a footprint, yes. So some students may feel that they don't care about their footprint at this point, but sometime in their life when they're looking for a job or going to university, it does matter and they need to know that. Okay, so I start with my learners, especially the ones at the moment. They do 5 weeks work experience, and we send them out as early as October. So their academic year starts in September, and they're only 16, and their first week's work experience is in October. So I start with their Facebook, with Twitter. I start with what they're doing online, and explain to them that everything that you do online, your social media, your blogs, YouTube, all this digital information, your photos, videos, tweets and posts are creating this online reputation. And it's opinions of people that they get from you from what they see online. And often, if you think of a photo, you know, it can be a good at the time, but it might look different when you see it online. Okay, so this is from Barclay's Life Quiz. I do this with my learners. Often some of the learners say, well, I'm not one of the options, and you might feel like that. But if you have to choose one, could you use A, B or C? So option 1 would be A, option 2 would be B, and option 3 would be C. Could we run a poll and choose one? So you're looking at the top of where your names are, and select Susanna as a B. Anybody else? Okay, Jason, are you saying you're none? Is that because you don't have social media, or that one just simply doesn't fit you? A lot are saying B. A, B. Edward, none of these. You've got to choose, Edward. Could you think of one? If you were to say, if someone said, right, okay, you have to choose one, could you? Okay, so Jane feels you use C for work and B for social. Good.
Did you want to say something, Julie? I noticed that you put your hand up, Julie. If you want to ask a question, if you want to, or you can type it in the chat pane if you want to.
If you want to use your microphone, Julie, then you just need to press the talk button, and then if your microphone is configured correctly, you should be able to speak to us.
Okay, Jason, you've just joined in. Thank you for joining us. We're running a poll at the moment, and we're choosing option 1 would be A, option 2 would be B, and option 3 would be C, on what type of internet user you are. You may feel that none fit. If you have to choose, perhaps you could try and choose one.
If you use the polling tool at the top of the page, underneath where it says participants, you'll see four little icons. The one on the far right, if you click the drop-down menu on that, oops, somebody's got their microphone and should have it on. If you click the down arrow, you can click on a letter, and then we can have a look overall to see what people have got. Hello, Julie.
Julie, if you want to say something, you just re-click your talk button and have a go and talk.
Yeah, I think Julie may be using her speakers and microphone without a headset, and that causes that feedback, and that's what we were hearing with the feedback from her system. You really need to use a headset to be heard properly with this type of system.
Okay, so I can see that 16 people have answered so far. So yes, okay, so C. So let's have a look what these mean. So it's 56% overall answered. So you've got 21% C, 18% B, and 2% A. So if you selected A, you're a networker. Perhaps you could put the thumbs up or clap if you agree with this, if you selected A, for those of you who did. Do you agree with what the statement is saying? Okay, we move on to the next one, which is a sharer. That was B. So if you're a sharer, you're a social butterfly. For those of you who chose this particular one, B, perhaps you could either put a smiley face or a thumbs up or a clap if you agree with the statement. So Suzanne saying yes. She agrees.
You can find these emoticons in the underneath the first button. So there we are. I've just put a clap up.
Okay, so Amy. And the last one was C, which I think was the majority. You're an engager. So your strong opinions, like to have a say, which is a great way to show your assertiveness. So those who picked C, do you agree? Perhaps you could put thumbs up or clap. Okay, so Jenny's approving. Richard. Okay, so this is a good way, this quiz I use with my learners. So they do the quiz and then they see what it means. And obviously then you can talk about the disadvantages and advantages of being the three different. So a networker, we talk about the advantages and disadvantages. A sharer, again, we would talk about it. And the engager. And from this I found the learners started to identifying how their internet use and their social media use was leaving their digital footprint, and they could control this by understanding which way they use the internet. Most of my learners that I'm teaching at the moment have one or more of these accounts. These obviously are social network and they're used for sharing. And social network sites were designed for communication and collaboration. They're not designed for keeping secrets and things private. They are collaborative tools and you share information on them. Obviously, when you open one of these accounts, you have to give yourself an email address and also a password. So by having these passwords, often, say for example on Facebook, you love cats maybe, and you've got cats on the Facebook page. Often, if somebody's trying to get details from you, they can try by looking at images and posts and information that you have on these accounts, and very cleverly you can take and find out what your passwords are. Perhaps we could have a little think. Do we have more than one password? So how many accounts do you have? Maybe you can leave some comments. Do you change your passwords? Perhaps you could say yes or no to indicate what you're doing on these if you are using them. So perhaps say you could say maybe, okay, you've got 3 accounts, but 3, and then yes, you have the same password for the 3 accounts, or so yes, but you do change your passwords, not as often as I should. Normally use the same or familiar, same passwords for most things. Use Google Password Manager at work. Okay, so I can see some of you have different passwords, but some have familiar. And I mean, with myself, I've got sort of 3 different email addresses. And I know that I use the same password for each email address, but I try to use my social media password and email address separate to my bank. The reason for this is if you think about big companies are now being hacked, and our personal and private data is being stolen. In the news, I think it was sometime last November, an 18-year-old, I believe he's from South Wales, he was arrested in connection with theft from TalkTalk. So you have hackers, and they really sort of looking at different companies and seeing if they can breach their security. Some hackers then take the data. Other hackers are known to contact the company and sort of say, look, I've breached your security. So this is why we should make sure that we use different and secure passwords, especially for our bank accounts. Make sure that we use different email addresses and different passwords. Maybe some of you could, do we use the same or different? Maybe we could post different or same for our bank and our social media. So could you do that for either same or different, or different or great? Different. Okay, excellent. Definitely different. Brilliant. You'd be surprised with my learners, they all use the same. And because they always forget their passwords, they're always using very similar, and that are quite easily taken from their social media. That's excellent. I can see that everyone's got different. Brilliant. Okay, so to sort of cap up this presentation, digital responsibility allows you to take control of your digital footprint by defining a positive online reputation. This can be viewed on both a personal and professional level, so securing your successful digital future. I hope you've enjoyed listening to that and maybe gaining some sort of aspects of how I'm introducing digital responsibility to my learners. It's a hard one because often, if your learner isn't interested sort of protecting their online reputation, maybe they're not ready to go into the work, they don't see a reason for it. So you have to get that hook. You have to sort of think about how you can engage with them and see that it's in their best interest. I'll pass you on now to my colleague, who's now going to talk to you about digital responsibility and the tools you can use. Thank you for listening.
Hi everyone, I'm Claire George. I'm an FE lecturer at Bridgend College. I should imagine that I speak on behalf of a lot of you guys out there that I've spent the last 24 years in academia and hasn't it changed. As an IT lecturer, the tools and technologies we use now has completely evolved, and the way in which our learners actually use them. So what I'm hoping to share with you this afternoon is some of the tools there are out there which could actually make teaching for you a little easier. As Cheryl said, since September we've both been looking at some of the tools and techniques that are out there and available to you. First of all, am I okay? Am I sounding all right, or am I talking too quickly? If you could use the emoticon button and just give me an approval, a thumbs up, that would be brilliant, just so I can see that I'm slowed down and that you can actually hear me properly. Great. Thank you, Anne Evans, for saying I sound good. All right, so my first slide I'm introducing you to is basically a fantastic hub that's available to you all. Catherine will supply the links at the end of this webinar, but the Barclays Life Skills Hub is a free resource pack. Now I'm piloting the Welsh Baccalaureate this year, which some of you may be doing, and there's a lot of resources available to you that will support some of the digital literacy aspects. They range from lesson plans, some YouTube videos, there are quizzes there, templates, presentations, and one which is particularly nice is a how to protect your online reputation. So you can showcase to your learners that by pinning a tweet to the top of their wall, how that can promote a positive footprint. Now our learners are very different. Mine in particular range from 16 to 25. So today it's all about safeguarding them for now and into their future. So this hub is pretty good for all aspects, but particularly has helped with my learning, my learners. Okay, so we've talked about what the digital footprint is and its reputation. And one of the I've got an abbreviation here on this slide, which is WBT, and that stands for a web-based tool. The link is there. It's called Repla, and this has a massive impact on my learners. In September, I asked all of my groups if they could use this scanning tool, which basically looks for keywords and phrases which they've posted. And it actually gives them then feedback as to whether they have a positive wall, a negative, and whether the language is neutral. So I've got an example later on, but one of the other things it does as well, which is what Cheryl has just said, is it actually checks for privacy and security threats. One of the things it doesn't do is it doesn't manage all of your posts, only the last 100. So even yesterday with a music tech group, I asked them to very quickly check their status, and they were quite alarmed. So I think now is the time that we can incite them and showcase how they can clean up their walls and get a positive reputation. There are some other tools available there. Pipple does a deep web search. However, there are costs attached to using this particular tool. You have Reputation, which manages both personal and business profiles, but again, there's a cost accrued to this, as to with LifeLock. Managing your business identity, and I have some learners who are entrepreneurs, who are setting up some online businesses and so on, so it's crucial that they have this positive footprint. Okay, so after the webinar, because I spoke to Catherine earlier and asked if you were able to do this, and unfortunately because there are so many logged on today, we may lose some of you. So when you log on to Repla with your learners or yourselves, you can actually go in via your Facebook account, Twitter, or LinkedIn. It's really, really easy. Once you've logged in, you then have to go onto your social media account to actually re-log back out. Now this rating here is actually one of my level 3 learners. I asked if I would be able to use this. As you can see on the left hand side, this particular learner has a Repla image score of 82. And Russell has told me this morning that he too has a Repla image score of 82. So that's not bad actually. You can see that his Facebook wall is mostly positive, tweets are neutral, and he's not actually connected to LinkedIn at this moment in time. What we need to look at though are the alerts on the right-hand pane. So what this particular learner did, hi Jason, thank you for joining us. What this particular learner did was he actually, in his Twitter account, copied some lyrics from a rap song which were deemed as inappropriate. So the language being used wasn't appropriate. So already he has 8 alerts against his particular Twitter profile wall. The other thing we've got to look at, and this is something that I'm doing with my learners, is when you take a bird's eye view of the networks and personal information that they're actually using. That's down at the bottom left corner of your screen. And basically, is that the type of image that you want to showcase to others? Because 7 seconds is pretty much all it takes to form an opinion on someone. So do you want these images to be out there and reflecting how you are and what type of person you are? In addition to introducing the learners to Repla, I also incite them with over 90% of recruitment is not only CV based now, so it's never been more important that employers will actually look now at your online profile. So cleaning up their act now and getting their profiles right and secure actually will put a positive slant on any future aspirations. Just in comparison with my level 3 year 2 learner who had 8 alerts, oops, sorry about that guys, we have a Fox News reporter here where again she hasn't got a positive score, an image score as my learner, but only had 7 alerts when reporting on the release of the Breaking Bad series. So you can see some of the language that that particular user had used raised even more alerts. Okay, can I run a poll please? Can I run a poll and ask you all if you would use Repla?
Okay, this is a yes/no poll, so it's going to be a green tick or a red cross. It's okay.
Okay. So if you're going to use Repla, I would. Oh, look, it's good. I'm going. It's great to see you all. Yep, 15. There's one person that wouldn't. Okay, who is that person? Can you put yourselves in the chat room and say why you wouldn't use it? Jane Mackenzie, you're being naughty and you're just trying it now. The other thing I've got to say is, while I've got 2 minutes to run this poll, is while I was doing it with a group yesterday in class, I actually had a learning support assistant in the group with me, and it was quite alarming to see that she was more concerned than some of the learners. So again, you know, it's great to be able to screen yourself. I love it. Jane Mackenzie's just said, I know I couldn't help myself, but do have 2 screens. Lucky you, Jane. We wish we did today. Okay, so it's quite positive. I think there's 20 of you. Can I run another poll? Russell, is this okay? Because can I ask the question, how many of you actually were aware of this tool? Yes if you were, no if you weren't. Okay, so yeah, it's looking good. So you're learning something already, guys. Okay, so very quickly moving on. Cheryl mentioned about security and changing your passwords. Now this website, and I'm sure some of you with 2 screens are going to have a little try now, is How Secure Is My Password. Again, this is a web-based tool. Free service, and it actually checks the strength of your password. So in the 2 screenshots that you see below you in red, of course I put my name, all lowercase, C George, and you can see that within 2 seconds you'd pretty much be able to crack the password. However, if I put an initial capital in, and then of course my age, which is 21, I'm already up to 58 years. Okay, so I think another thing that we've got to actually be mindful with digital responsibility is strategies to manage our online information and how we keep it secure. So again, passwords, you know, think about adding capitals, some symbols, and making it as complicated as possible. The safest way, as we all know, is to reset your password every time, or use some password manager software. There's some new freebies online now. Okay. So I'm going to run a poll and ask the question, have you used How Secure Is My Password before? Now this is good, so there's a lot of you. When I used this with some of my learners and some of my staff in September, they were amazed by it. Okay. Okay, so Caroline's scared of actually putting her password in. All you're doing there, Caroline, is you're actually going to check it'll come back. And if it does worry you, then you can reset it. I don't think we're allowed to dip out and have a go. Are we, Russell, or are we against the clock?
No, I think it's best if they can play about with how to use my password after we finish the session, because we've only got 20 minutes left anyway.
All right. All right, I'm not going to be too long, I promise. Okay, so I'd recommend, guys, can I run another poll really quickly? How many of you now are going to actually, when you leave the webinar, check your passwords? Brilliant. Okay, this is looking good. I love it. Catherine is now 3 trillion years into her password. Rich Jones has got 34,000 years to crack. I think you're pretty much done there, Rich. Okay, brilliant. Delith. Oh, Delith used this with a group this morning and someone managed to get 5 trillion years. I think that person deserves a certificate. All right, good advice, Delith. Okay, so let's move on. Now, a lot of my learners are inspired by the online community, and the tool I want to show you is something called Clout. Again, this is a web-based tool, and what happens here is it provides a score based on your social media activities, and they can be liked, shared, and retweeted. So the score basis is from 0 to 100, and we've got the lovely Barack Obama down there, and of course he's scoring 99. What I'm finding is, particularly with my learners, that with the introduction and rise of internet celebrities, these cyber stars, as they're called, such as PewDiePie, even though some of my boys now would say PewDiePie was last season, with over 40.5 million follows, these are a massive influence in the way young people are using online media. Blogebrities. So I'm not sure if you've heard of somebody called Zoella, not particularly more our age group, however some 16, 17-year-old young ladies are familiar with Zoella, but certainly the younger end of the spectrum. She has over 9.5 million followers with a massive net worth of 2.3 million. But I think what we're finding now is that our learners are actually aspiring to become these cyber stars and blogebrities. So with example, Zoella at Christmas time decided to endorse through Twitter a dressing gown from Marks & Spencer. So her tweet consisted of as soft as clouds and sold out. Marks & Spencer sold out within 2 minutes with her 3.9 million followers. Now there's no advertising campaign that can actually compete with that. So what we're finding now is more and more consumers and businesses are using this type of cyberstar to promote and endorse their products. Clout will allow our learners to actually score themselves, and again, this is something you can try outside of the webinar, and the links will be made available to you. So again, we have a lot of YouTubers now, YouTube channels that I'm using for the curriculum and so on. So it's a nice way to monitor that. And who knows, Cheryl and I may become cyber celebrities after this webinar. So what I've done here, and I hope you find this helpful, this is just a small go-to with regards to digital tools which we hope will support digital responsibility. And some are available to download as an app. Some are web-based tools, which means that you need to log in via a website. We've talked about Repler. Please have a go if you haven't used it before. Check out Barclay's Life Skills. There's 2 types of views available to you. You can actually join as a tutor, and you can actually register and sign up as a learner. So there's 2 very different resource banks there available for you. All 3 of those, Google, Repler, and Pipple, will allow you to check your digital footprint. Okay, Barclays will allow you to have some resources which you may find, helpful, certainly with the Welsh back and with getting ready for employment. Managing your business and security online threats, recommendations, but again there are costs to these, a LifeLock and reputation. How secure is my password is a really fun way to actually start maybe some of the process going, how secure are you? And it's obviously going to check the password stability and get the learners to start thinking about, who's out there. Online rating, if we've got some cyber celebrities in the making, you've got clout.com. And this year, we've been exposed to quite considerable tools, having followed the Digital Literacy Practitioners course. But Padlet in the sessions as a live collaborative wall. I've used different responsibility techniques in that they name who they are because these are live walls and so on. But that's been a great resource to use, as with Prezi. And Sharon mentioned earlier on about the podcasting tool. This year, I've managed to set up a podcasting hub at Bridgend College, which if anybody wants to come along and see us, they're more than welcome to, using an app called Quick Voice, and it has completely transformed the way in which I deliver the curriculum and the way in which my learners respond to the curriculum. So now assignments are available as audio files through the podcasting tool, along with students uploading their work in a very different way. And again, we've used this on the new Welsh Baccalaureate. So, could you actually give me a thumbs up if you like some of those tools and if they would possibly be of use to you? So I'm looking for an approval, hopefully. Oh, I'm getting some thumbs up here. Deborah's approving. Okay. All right, can I ask if there's any questions? Anything you want me to go through?
I can see that some people are writing. While they're writing, can I ask you a question?
Or are you okay on
when you're talking about the podcast, does everybody engage with that, or do you get some people say, "I don't want my voice to be recorded, so I don't want to do that"? How does it work? What's the response like from the learners?
Okay. Right, from my learners, there's been two types of response. I have one learner who has cerebral palsy, and I have made his year, Catherine, in the sense that this has completely transformed the way in which he actually produces work. On the other spectrum then, my level 2 learners who have recently gone through the Welsh Bac National, minutes of meetings are now podcasts, reviews and evaluation are podcasts. I think the first time they do it, they feel a little bit, and then they realize that, do you want to spend the next 20 minutes writing a reflection piece, or do you want to do a general script and then actually spend the next 30 seconds to a minute of actually then evaluating? It's been invaluable. Obviously you need some equipment and some investment into your curriculum area. I've been very, very lucky. My head of school and dean of faculty have brought in not a class set of iPads, but I've got 7 iPads, and it's just common practice. Now, it's an essential part of each of my sessions.
That's really good to hear, thanks.
I find that comment, most academics say social media is meaningless. And I'm not disputing what you're saying, James, but there's any amount of evidence of social media being used within higher education, and there are actually awards given for the most innovative use of social media as well. I don't know if Sharon can...
Yeah, Russell, Well, I'm going to say something actually, Russell, in that, I mean, I've got level 3 learners that are currently taking out a technology roadshow tomorrow, and they're going to be working with the primary sector, because fundamentally now teenagers today have never known an existence without the internet, a smartphone, and it's basically part of their life now, and it certainly is going to be part of, well, it should be part of the classroom now. With regards technology and social media, it's an invaluable part. I mean, all we're doing here, I think, is empowering them to be responsible in their approach, ensuring they have a positive reputation. But it's moving forward now and using the technology in an exciting and innovative way. We're heading to our first primary school tomorrow, and we'll be working with years 5 and 6. So these are 10 and 11-year-olds, which hopefully I may be seeing in the next 4 or 5 years. And we're showing them how to set up a Vine, do some video editing, blogs, introduce them to WordPress, and some of the underlying theme tomorrow in all of this fun activity, as well as some coding as well, is digital responsibility. So it doesn't matter how we move away from this, you know, it is here to stay. So we've got to now, and I mean, I joined the academic, well, I joined Bridgend College. I'm lucky enough to have been here for 24 years, and I actually love the contact time. But in the last 24 years, what a change. You know, we've got to respond to what our young learners are actually using. And I loved one of the comments. I'm just going to go up to the chat poll. Which of you was it? It was, hang on. Where your grandchildren are doing more with video blogs than you know what they're doing. And I think fundamentally that's the whole purpose in this particular webinar, so that we can actually share in some of the newfound knowledge. Now, we didn't have enough time, but there are other things that we need to mention is, you know, our learners are moving slightly away from Facebook because their mums, their grandmas are on there, and they don't want to share and see some of the images that perhaps may be a little bit shaming towards them. So they're moving away now to Instagram, Snapchat, and there's some dangers there as well, which we'll be talking about tomorrow. But for fundamental starting point for digital responsibility, I think you've got some really great tools that are available to you. And listen, what's going to be really great today is going to change tomorrow, and it's just keeping things abreast. I learn as much from my learners as hopefully they do with me. And the last thing that I'm going to say before we end the webinar is don't be afraid to use your learners. If there's something that I've learned this year is to empower them, to stretch and challenge them. So I've identified some more able and talented learners as my social media hub development officers, and I have digital literacy, more able and talented learners. I have some learners who disseminate to staff. So, you know, let's hone in on some of the expertise that they have and share it. Well, thank you very much for listening today. Is there any more questions that possibly we could answer? I think Cheryl's going to come on the mic as well. So
sorry, there were a couple of questions that I picked up from the chat page.
Oh, sorry.
Somebody asked what the next big thing was in education. Blimey, wouldn't we all like to know that? But what I'd suggest you do, we've got an event called Connect More. An event called Connect More in Swansea and the date is on the 7th of July. We're tweeting about it. We've got information on our website, and we've got somebody, and I've forgotten his title now, somebody who looks into the future to see what, you know, what is coming. Somebody can remind me of his job title, but he will be there. So we're going to, you know, I'd say if you want to know what's happening in education, come along to our conference, the Connect More conference, and you know, ask lots of questions there. Susan Lewis asked about the choice of assessment. She said, is there a choice of assessment? And I'm not absolutely sure what you were referring to there, Susan. Do you want to either take the microphone or write in the chat pane, assessment relating to what? If you want to take the microphone, that's absolutely fine. Oh, aren't you? Sorry. Oh, sorry. Who asked about the choice of assessments? I'll have to go back and have a look.
I'm looking at a question now, which is from Caroline. And Caroline has asked, has just got any courses on podcasting. I think Sharon signposted that earlier on. But you can also, Caroline, one of the tools I've used this year has